Man, let's get this flashing out of here.
Man, I told you not to do that,
Man, we're flashing. That's what we're going to do.
All right.
Alright, okay. Alright. So we are back at it. Me and my cohort in silliness. Alright. We have our coil stock is what you're going to find. This comes in 50-foot rolls, 25-foot rolls. Sometimes you can get it skinnier and it'll come in 10-foot rolls in just basic aluminum. But I have some of this laying around the house. This is black-white coil stock. Black on one side, white on the other. We'll be using the white side today as our focus. But it really wouldn't matter on this flashing because we're going to end up painting everything anyway. But I'm going to show you guys the old school way on a brake. Now a brake is something that is used to bend aluminum, and if you don't have one of these, and chances are you don't, you can get this at one of your local home centers, and you can rent them by the day, and you can do a lot of this flashing yourself. You can bend any kind of metal that you would need. Like I was sharing earlier, I have some leftover 24 white over black left over, and I need to flash some windows. So as I showed you in the diagram before, I know what our measurements are. And because you are going to be getting a brake now, because I'm in the business, I have a cutoff tool that makes the cutoff very, very easy for me. I just have to remember to add a 1 inch or an 1.5 inch addition to whatever size I'm going to be using, and I will demonstrate that. But because you guys are probably not going to have this tool, I'm going to go ahead and show you the old school way of getting this aluminum cut and broke on the brake. So the first thing you want to do is grab your tape measure and your marker, and you're going to want to mark out the distance that we figured. And earlier when we did our math, we were at 7 inches. So we're going to go ahead and find our 7-inch mark. Make our mark. Now the good thing about this is on brake metal is that if you're not exactly perfect, your bends can be perfect even if your original cut isn't perfect because your scrap runs up the wall. So just something you can think about. But it's always best to try to get these as accurate as possible. Okay? Now we have a 7 on our mark on our brake. Now, the brake has a compression arm right here. This is what breaks and holds everything down. You have the throat that opens up that receives the metal. I know there's a lot of noise for you guys, I apologize. But you want to line up your front throat with your line. Okay? Go ahead and lock that down. Alright? And then the old school fashion, take a knife and just begin to score 2 or 3 times down the length of the throat. After about 3 scores, you should be good. Your goal is not to try to cut the metal. Your goal is only to create a really tight place where the metal can bend, and then we're going to back bend it and it's going to break it off. Alright, so let's go ahead and tilt this all the way up and over. Bend the metal back a couple times, gone. Alright, so now that we have our 7-inch piece, we can move the rest of the metal out of our throat. And we need to start thinking about the sides of the metal. What's going to be white side, what's going to be black side. What we need to establish first is our 3/4 overbend or our strong bend along the front. And so that is just really easy to do on almost any brake. The rubber gasket on this back side, and I'll have, we'll go ahead and get you some pictures of some of these things I'm talking about. But this rubber gasket is exactly 3/4 inch away from the throat. So if you line up with the rubber gasket, you are 3/4 inch away from the throat, and this can become your first bend back. We're hiding the black side, so we're going to be bending back, black to black. Okay? Alright. When you pull that out of your throat, you're going to have your initial bend here, and then you can stick this in the top of the throat again and compress that. Every time you bend the metal, you're making the metal just a little bit more rigid and a little stronger. So that's important to know. Alright, now we have a white side, which is our outside edge, and this needs to be our front face, and we need a 1 inch reveal, and then we're going to go back 2 1/4. So in order to bend this down this direction, we're still going to need to leave our black side facing up this time, because it is the back. I should have probably moved that aluminum out of there. All right. Now, this time we're going to go and leave ourselves a reveal right at 1/4 inch. There you go. Again, you always have to lock your bar. Bend 90 degrees. There's our first bend in our flashing. Now, by the way, I wanted to point this out because I'm going to cut another one with my cutoff tool, and I want to show you the difference, but I'll have E get close later with the camera. See that rough edge? This rough edge right here isn't caused when you use this cutoff tool. Perhaps your rental center might have that as well. It certainly makes a cleaner cut. It makes a factory edge cut. This right here always leaves just a little bit of a burr. All right? Now, we know that our measurement across the top of our window trim along the top side of the piece is exactly 2 1/4. So we want to bend that, come over here and mark our metal at 2 1/4 to the throat. One of the things I like to do is go ahead, once I've measured one side, is go ahead and put a tick mark on the metal, because when you start adjusting in here, you need to be able to come back to it. Okay? So pull the 2 1/4 here. Bingo. Now, this has a full angle degree, like you can go over 90 on this one. This particular bend, we don't even need, but maybe a 15 degree angle. So we're going to just barely bend this up this time. I see I'm off of my line again. Again, always take a second look. Make sure, measure twice, cut once, right? Bend once. All right, and then we're just going to bend this up, but not all the way to 90 at this point. At this point, I'm going to stay shy of 90. Okay? Now, what I have created then, and I don't know how easy or which one I should be looking at, but anyway, what we end up with is a profile then that can go up the wall, sheds water off of the front face of the flashing and down onto this drip edge, and we have a very rigid drip edge that we can use to cover over our window. If we need to, we can even tack it there. So there you have it. I've got to build a couple more of these. Let me show you the cutoff tool just real quick, just in case you happen to have an opportunity to use a TAPCO brake with the cutoff tool. It is very easy, and since I'm also going to be using these for training videos for my team, and I have the tools, it's best I guess I go ahead and show them. Now, on this particular tool, I already have that rough edge. I'm going to get rid of that rough edge because I don't like it. So we're just going to real quick get rid of that rough edge. Now, one of the things is the cutoff tool sits 1.5 inches away from the throat of the blade. So whatever measurement we're going to be needing in the end, we're going to have to add 1.5 inches before we cut. So we were going to need 7, we'd be at 8.5. But for right now, I only want to take off this first 1/2 inch of where this bend was kind of ugly so that we don't have to deal with that again. So I'm going to set it right at 2 inches. 2 inches. I'm going to lock my throat. Just as a quick example, just to show you. Now, what's important if you do get this one is the placement of this on top of this rail. These wheels need to sit in the rail that sits along the top side of this. So if you're sitting on there correctly, it's going to, your slide is going to move back and forth. Okay? Easy, with no problem on the bearings. Now, I want to show you the difference, or we can show you later, but there's the really rough edge that came from when we did it the old-fashioned way, the poor man's way, I guess you call it. And then this is the other way, and it's a factory edge again. So now, just to demonstrate, I'm kind of doing this for one of my guys today too, so I'm going to make sure I share with him exactly what's going on. We're 7 inches means we need to be at 8.5 inches. Will give us a drop of 7 inches. So if we're looking for 7, we got to add 1.5 inches. I'm sorry, 8.5 is what we got to get, 8.5. Okay. Double check, measure twice, cut once, right? Alright. 8.5, good to go. Now, you should be able to lock that one down in there. Okay? And now we should be able to just cut this off very smoothly. Make sure I'm sitting on my rail right. There we go. edges. We're just gonna pop off those measurements again. This side, black side up. Is it okay if I bring Wayne in for a second? Wayne, come on over. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Along the front edge of the throat of this, along with this rubber gasket, is almost always right at just under 3/4 of an inch, okay? When you put that down, that's right at 3/4. So when you bend that up, there's the first bend, okay? You're compressed at over 90, or over 45, right? Or over 90. So then you want to set this back up in here, tighten the throat. Use this to compress this again. Whoops. You see how that bent that all the way in? Okay. Again. Now we're going to look 1 inch. So we want to be exactly. There you go. Actually, let me run that. Yep, run 3/4 down here, bud. This way, down here. Alright, let's double check them. I think that's looking good all through there. Yes, sir. Alright, now we're going to bend this one. This is a full 90. And now that we're flipping to change angle to go up, we're flip white side up now. Okay, now this needs to be 2 1/4. Make your, okay, when you're there, yeah, just in case when we're screwing around with it, okay, make sure we're good. Now this one doesn't go all the way to 90 now, okay, stays just shy of 90, and that'll give you that pitch, okay. And there you have it, our 2 windows are flashed out. It is time for us to get the flash out of here.